Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me today is Sarah Strickler, co-founder of Grown Rogue. Thank you very much for joining me today, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you, David, for having me. I'm really excited to be here and have this discussion with you.
Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. Sarah, I always like to start the podcast to get to know the person a little bit of background as to what brought you to the industry. So, what was it that first got you involved in cannabis?
Yeah, I come from health and wellness. I have a deep belief in holistic healing, which stemmed from playing basketball and volleyball. I was an avid athlete growing up, and really it formalized just a deep love and commitment to kind of that holistic, mind-body connection. I explored becoming an acupuncturist. I was a massage therapist. So for me, cannabis came to me as just another tool in your tool belt for healing. That's how it was brought to me. Just if it could alleviate someone else's, pain or, sleep. That was really the lens that I looked at it through, just kind of another realm of therapy, if you will, for someone. And for me, it just made a ton of sense. It may not be right for everyone, but for those who needed to use it, that is how I was introduced to it and came to believe to how it needed to be.
What was the aha moment for you when it came to holistic healing? Was there an experience where oh, this really does work?
Yeah, I had some personal things happening at the time. I dealt with eczema through, my anxiety and stress. I also had skin cancer at a pretty young age. I got diagnosed with that. So for me, when those things happen, I feel like it wakes you up. There's an awakening inside of you of what else is out there? What else can be true for my body? I also tore my ACL playing basketball. And at that time, opioids, my mom was really concerned about me being on painkillers like that. So it really was kind of that aha of what else is out there? What else can we use for, mitigating some of these other alternatives? That was kind of realizing and having to explore different ways of healing or looking at different things. It wasn't that I was necessarily consuming, but just opened the door for what could be potential.
Well, being an athlete in that age, I understand that, that was when something hurt. There was just a pill for it and that was it.
Yeah. So, and I was at that pivotal age where I was 21. And I think for those who have had an injury during their career of sport, it's not a fun time at all. It's really sad. And there's just a lot of emotions that go along with that, especially an ACL tear or something along those lines that take, several months, if not up to a year to heal after you have surgery.
So what do you do in your role as Director of Community Relations at Grown Rogue?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a lot of different things. I think as we've grown Grown Rogue, I say we, my husband and I, we're both the co-founders. It looks a little different each day. The role that I've had to play is you just do what you got to do to get to the next day. You don't really think about it. You just react. You just respond. But through that, I do a lot of community engagement, a lot of education, a lot of tours, a lot of hand-holding with our team. It changes, like I say, daily, but really it's a lot of things. I sit on a lot of boards as well in our community. I think it's important to show up for community in a lot of different realms, being kind of the industry leader, if you will. And right now I'm really prioritizing our next leadership training session for our team. So like I said, every day it's a little something different, but staying true to being involved with, a myriad of things.
As I was reading some of the other interviews that you've done and other content that you've put out in the market, you seem to focus on stigma and trying to tear down that stigma of the industry. in your role working within the community, what works best in terms of helping tear down that stigma and, make the community realize what kind of partner you could be?
From the beginning, David, that was something that was super important to Obi and I was as we built Grown Rogue, we really wanted to come out of the shadows, of kind of what this industry had been priorly kind of viewed as. So through that meant working with our city, showing them and, letting them know what our plans were as we were going to be building Grown Rogue, and the company that we wanted to. Like, even if you didn't want to consume our product, we wanted to build a business that the community could get behind just because we operated really well and we're really good people, really good neighbors. And through that, it led to, bringing in the community to show them and have them be a part of what we were building. Because when we first started Grown Rogue, we started with our outdoor medical farms that we transitioned into the rec space. And then that same year, as we were building out the outdoor farms, we got our first indoor grow facility, 17,000, just really bare. There was nothing in it. And so we built that out from scratch from the beginning. And we literally were giving tours while we were building it, just so our community could be like, this is what an indoor grow looks like. This is the process. It was really vulnerable. It was really humbling at the same time because you're inviting, politicians or whatnot in to kind of see what you're about. And that's kind of started the foundation for opening up. We also did a lot of community events where we hosted educational kind of events so that people could come in and ask questions, and just really opened ourselves up to be good community stewards to what we were doing and educating around the process and our method and what we were trying to create.
Talking about that anxiety and vulnerability, were you nervous as you were building your own shop?
1,000%. I mean, you go from, kind of living behind the scenes to now living out loud. It was definitely a moment of, you got to check yourself and every day kind of just do the things that you know to be true and stay in your light and really just bring forth what you want to do and what you're trying to create, and stand really confident in that and believe, wholeheartedly in what you're trying to do. And it plays off in spades, I think, when you stand in your truth and you're able to exist in that realm. You can accomplish and do amazing things. You find out really, who you can be with, and who, no pun intended, but weed out those who, you don't really need to surround yourself with.
Who'd you have to weed out? No, all right, I understand. But you had mentioned earlier about coordinating leadership training. What do you do internally with Grown Rogue to help train and sort of promote from within to build the business?
Yeah, this is a great question. I was actually just on with our leadership coach. She actually invited me onto her podcast, and it was just kind of this full circle moment. But a few years back, as we were growing Grown Rogue, we got to a point where I really wanted to do leadership, bring the whole leadership team out here to Oregon. Most of our team is kind of remote at the leadership level. So when we all get together, it's really special. I had found there was a good friend of mine, and she owns a leadership training company that helps businesses and educate and grow leaders with different companies. And I came to her in the offensive kind of mode of, hey, we're building our company. I really feel like leadership training is going to be critical for when we have to navigate really tough times. And so with the help of her, it started really small. Our leadership team at the time was very small. And I just said, I want to be able to have us all have tools and speak kind of the same language, if you will, of like, when things get tough, this is how we're going to overcome. This is how we're going to communicate with one another. And we developed these leadership trainings for not only our leadership team, but also our like management level. And it's just been widely successful to, as leaders, we all need, and for me specifically, I've always had a coach. I've always had a mentor. So that for me just felt really comfortable and like the next best step to take. I think the people you surround yourself with are indicative of how you're going to grow and move forward. Team is huge here at Grown Rogue. That's how Obi and I, met, was playing basketball. So we both have this, foundation of team and the roles that we play. So leadership to me means that we all need to continuously get better, be curious, and support one another, and all kind of have the same tools, if you will, to continue to lead in an excellent kind of way.
Are there any traits that stand out to you in an employee that kind of serve as a green light to being a natural or a trainable leader?
Yeah, you got to be a really good person, really kind. You got to lead with your heart. You got to be trustworthy. I mean, I think those are the top of the line things when you're looking at, positioning someone to get hired, for sure. People will show you who they are as time goes on, but the human element is critical, and what they bring and who they are and their character is vital to the role. The culture now here is so beautiful. I can't even describe it. The team is just, they're harmonizing in such a way that now we can almost identify who's going to work and who isn't. You just have built this ecosystem of leaders that they can identify. Your team can, know from almost the get-go of like what's going to work, what's not. And that's pretty awesome. Pretty special.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It's vital to surround yourself with good people, and I just don't understand when being a good person fell out of vogue. Just what separates you? I don't know. Kindness? No.
I mean, right? It's kind of just that human. I like to say that I'm a heart leader, which means I lead with my heart, and I always see the best in all people, because that's the best place to start. Seeing the glass half full, giving people trust and the autonomy to do the work that they want and flourish and succeed. I think when you set people up for success from the beginning, they're going to do amazing things and they can make it their own. That's been a priority for us, is to set people up for success. And that's how you're going to win.
So you mentioned that you and Obi met playing basketball, and we talked a little bit about that in my conversation with Obi. But I also liked when you described it as falling in love with a stoner nerd. Could you talk a little bit about that part of the origin story?
Oh, yes. Obi is the love of my life. And from day one, I also like to call him kind of my closet nerd. He's so brilliant in so many ways, but he just had this way of describing and talking about cannabis in such a way that was so intriguing to me. And, he just taught me so much of some of the details about the plant. And I mean, he just kind of geeked out on it. It was really awesome. I was kind of fascinated by all of it. And I think what that truly means to me, the stoner nerd, is that he's so brilliant and such a great leader. And I love the fact that it was so different and taboo at the time of like weed. It was, it just was a beautiful way about him and something that he didn't share with most. And so it felt really personal to both he and I. It was something we could share together. And it's kind of a beautiful love story that continues to go on.
Well, and I like that. I like that story arc. The started with the stoner nerd, and you've developed into these disciplined nerds that are kind of very disciplined in how you guys run your operation.
I think Obi and I both come from our beginnings of who we are, just with our families. We've just been disciplined our whole life. That's just been ingrained in us through sport. I know for me personally, having to show up on the days that you don't want to. I like to say that, discipline doesn't just happen overnight. Like, it's something that's built over time. And they show up when people aren't looking, right? It's all the things that you do when someone's not watching you. It's like, how are you going to stay in your integrity? How are you going to stay in that same frame of mind when no one's watching you, right? There's a lot of things when people watch, you can perform or whatnot, but it's the habits and the disciplines that you build when no one's watching. It's really hard. It sucks. You have to go through that pain to get out to the beautiful thing. So then when you do have to perform or you do have to present, it's like habit because you know it so well.
So when you're having one of those tougher days, what works for you to get back and, push through?
It's a great question. There's a lot of little things that I do. I think people always think it's some grand thing, but really it's pausing. Maybe it's just taking a deep breath. Like, when I'm in my headspace. I know we can all get there. I'm sure you have gotten there where your like mind is just spiraling and you just are trapped. And sometimes I just have to go inward and you have to just go inside your body and go, what does my body need in this moment? How am I going to take care of what I need and myself to move to the next action? So maybe that's getting a glass of water. Maybe that's going outside and getting some fresh air or some sunshine. Maybe it's calling a teammate or a friend to get their advice or their opinion. I think those little things get you to the next thing, which then just compounds to get you to the bigger things. So it's the little things in those moments to just ground you and bring you back to center.
Oh, completely agree. I mean, checking a lot of boxes there with spiraling, dread. But I mean, really for me, the first one, water and, the water to coffee ratio where you just I have to take a step back and be like, have I had water today? That might be it,
Yeah, totally. No, I agree.
So talking about being discipline nerds, following that thread, how do you approach the business in terms of, really maintaining this low cost, high yield, high quality product?
Yeah. I think it really just comes back down to the basics. There's a lot of nice to haves, but then there's also just your needs to haves, right? Of what you actually need to create and grow this beautiful plant. And I think we've operated with that mindset of just being, what do we really functionally need to grow the plant? You can have all the pretty packaging, you can have all the pretty ancillary things, but at the end of the day, through every iteration of Grown Rogue, it's always been about the love and the passion, the care for the plant. What does the plant need? What do they need the environment? And again, going back to people and then surrounding yourself with your team to execute the plan. So really leaning into the discipline, looking at your cost of what's a nice to have versus a need to have, and then going from there. And then setting that habit up every single day, because the small habits that you do will lead to the great things, the big things, because you have the confidence, because you've established those disciplines and gone through, the hard times to get to the next point.
So in your opinion, what are some of the essential need to haves and what are some of the expendable nice to haves?
Well, I mean, you got to just have what it takes to grow the plant at the beginning of the day, if you will, or even at the end of the day. When we were growing outdoors, really the environment was set up for us for success. So just trying to mimic that and replicate that and bring it indoors. That's essentially what you're doing, is trying to replicate nature indoors. And so if you think about it, what do you need to grow a plant outdoors? That's what you're going to try and do indoors. So that's all you need, really, the basics.
How has your understanding and your connection with the plant evolved throughout your time with the business?
That's a great question. I'm going to have to pause for a minute because this plant has given so much to me. It's been a part of my life for so long now that I can't imagine not having this plant in my life in so many different forms. It started out so small. I mean, it was just so small. I mean, it wasn't like Obi and I jumped into these grand facilities. I mean, it really started so small. And to think of where we are today and how it's changed and how I've changed personally through this whole journey is mind blowing. I think people always think that just because regulation happens and these changes happens, that a person's body and mind, you have to grow with it. And that's been really eye-opening for me as a leader, to have to grow not only along with our company and our plants, but I too, as a human and a leader, had to evolve and grow. That self-awareness was super critical to, as we move forward, how these impacts are going to impact my marriage, my children, our community. It's all connected, right? It's all connected. So you have to live in that integrity. Coming back to your question around staying true to the little disciplines, the little things that give you confidence to continue to go forward. So really having to stay true to that narrative is critical as we move forward in building Grown Rogue and staying true to what I know to be true.
Speaking of, chasing or dealing with ever-changing regulatory environments, How do you stay ahead of that? And are you encouraged by the latest rumblings when it comes to changes that might take place in terms of rescheduling and pretty much everything in the constantly changing industry?
I think we just control what we can control, and we just stay head down in what we're building, and we navigate what we can, but really just control what we can control because that's all we have at the end of the day. It's just like a human, right? You can only control so much. There's so many external things, but we can control what comes out of our mouth, the food that we eat, the things that we do, how we want to show up. So leaning into those just really small habits, those really small practices, it seems so, you know, little, but they really are the things you can control. So we stay in that lane.
How long did it take you to become comfortable with the uncomfortable?
I'm still uncomfortable.
That's fair.
I I I think it's constantly having to put yourself, I think that's where the athletics and that kind of game day mentality, when you're out there performing in that way, it builds over time. You don't lose that like butterflies in your stomach and all of that. That just builds. Um, but really that mentality of like I might fail, but I might also really succeed in a beautiful way, which correlates right indirectly into basketball. I feel like because when you're out there performing, you have to perform every day, and you will make mistakes. There will be hard times. There will be fouls called. You're going to have. But how do you function and how do you overcome that? You just keep building that resiliency, and showing up and getting curious and continuously learning.
Do you have a product that Grown Rogue has produced that, in your eye, is the crown jewel?
For me personally, well, the
Yeah,
flower,
yeah,
I
for you
mean,
personally.
the
Yeah,
flower. At the end
yeah.
of the day, it's the flower. That's, I mean, it's been so awesome to watch us build out the genetic portfolio. And, we like to look at it like fashion, like high fashion, what some things might come in back into style, that once was. And so constantly keeping pace with that and allowing our consumers to really educate us around what they want in each market that we operate in. That's been really fun to see the trends in each state, to see what flavors they want, to see what genetics they're raving about. I think it's fascinating. And then to kind of watch it be seasonal too. Winter versus summer versus spring. It's really fascinating to have that data and to understand who our consumer is and what they want to help us drive. It's kind of this symbiotic thing. Our consumers tell us, we then grow that. It's really fun. It's really awesome to watch.
Have any trends in particular caught you by surprise?
I think one trend that I think is fascinating is that flowers dominated the space, that it continues to be the number one category. I think that speaks volumes. It's beautiful. I love it. I just think but for me, it's like, I'm surprised by that a bit, but maybe not. But I think that's been eye-opening.
On this focus with high quality, low cost, um, have you had to resist the temptation to sort of chase some of those trends and look more long term as you're kind of developing your business plan?
Of course, I think Obi and I always talk about it's all the times that we've said no. That's probably been one of our greatest strengths is not chasing. Again, self-awareness around, oh, that really sounds good. But sometimes no can be your greatest, you know, uh, differentiator, if you will. Like it can really set you up for success. It's not necessarily like a negative. I used to look at no as being a negative, and now I think it's actually like a really positive thing because it helps you really get clear about what's important and what you need to stay aligned with. That doesn't mean shutting down all opportunity, but no can be a really powerful thing, to help you advance and stay clear to your mission.
Well, not just being a powerful thing, but also when you have the realization that you can use that no, I think that's very empowering as well.
Yeah, I think it's so empowering to how that mind shift sometimes is super critical into your next move or your next decision. Sometimes it's that reframe of looking at it like, oh, that seemed like a negative, but actually it turns into something really beautiful and really positive. So really just having to change that narrative. And then there's been a lot of times when we've had to do that and pivot. Um, in situations that we thought, and then having to, make a different decision or go with a different outcome.
Because you've refined the model so much when it comes to inputs, trim quality, yields, do you find that you would ever be at a spot where if these trends emerged, you could kind of plug and play with your model to seize on a trend? Or do you still like to kind of stay in the same timeline that you have now?
I think we're open to trials. Like, I don't think we ever want to put all of our eggs in one basket. I think we've gotten really great at, let's just try this little thing, right? Let's just sample it, see how it goes, rather than taking and betting the whole thing, right? It's doing little tests to make sure that, is this going to work? Is this going to succeed? Um, and really being diligent and taking back the feedback from the team, to understand and get their input and their thoughts around, and having that discussion. Again, going back to that, some of that leadership training, when you're able to allow your team to converse with you and open up and talk openly about what they're seeing, what they're feeling, it really allows for great collaboration and discussion and education for us all to move forward and to be curious together. So I feel like that's critical to, identifying some of these things as we navigate and what opportunities are going to work or not.
The industry likes to pride itself as one of inclusion and empowerment. How do you feel about the role as a female leader in cannabis?
It's a great question. I feel really blessed right now in this space to be here in this moment. I think I shared with you earlier. It's a dream to be here sitting with you and speaking to you. I've read about you. I've, dreamed about being, something one day, and to be in this position is really humbling and honoring. And I know that it hasn't been alone. I've had to surround myself with a lot of other female leaders. That the mentorship is super critical, because there have been times where I felt really alone, sitting with a, a lot of being the only woman in the room, if you will, or at the table. And so, again, going back to the mindset in my own mind of having to, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to navigate? Who am I going to surround myself with that are going to help me carry me forward, has been really empowering to be in this spot. I've had a lot of teammates and a lot of great people to surround myself with to be in this position. So I feel very fortunate and lucky to be a representative in this industry as a female. It's not one that I take lightly. It's very honoring, if you will. And I know our numbers are getting lower, year over year, which is unfortunate, but
No, that was my next point. What do you think the industry could do to help reverse that trend and help, promote a little bit more diversity in those rooms where you sometimes find yourself being the only woman?
I think it's doing things like this, sharing our stories. I know personally, if I had never shared my story, I don't feel like Grown Rogue would be here today. I think it's speaking up and speaking your truth. I had a hard time with that in the beginning. I learned to stay pretty silent. And so to be here, to be speaking on this podcast today, means it's a huge step for me personally. And I feel like if we just continue to share our stories, and we don't overthink things too much, I think it would be a great movement forward. I think that's one way we could maybe overcome some of it. And also, trying to give access through my community work. I try and help other women through mentorship, because that has been so pivotal for me in my growth and my being able to be in this position today. Again, I'll just go back to, it's what you the environments in which you surround yourself with, they will be indicative of how you're going to move forward. Surrounding yourself with really positive, amazing people has been, and people that I want to take things from, like emulate what they're doing, their success, has been critical for my success. So I think if more people are aware, that self-awareness of what they're surrounding themselves with, what information they're being told or talked about, plays a pivotal role in how you want to advance forward, not only as a female, but just as a human.
What would you like to see Grown Rogue evolve into next?
maximum potential. I think as athletes, that's one thing that we're always told. I don't think Grown Rogues hit maximum potential, and I'd love to see what maximum potential is for us. I want to do a lot more of the same things on purpose. I want to continue to do and lean into all of our strengths and the things that we've built, because that's what will carry us forward, is continuously just building upon those disciplines that we've created and been able to execute against. But really seeing where this can all go, leaning into our genetics, leaning into our team, watching our leaders grow, moving into more states, delivering that great craft quality flower that we're known for, and allowing people to and our consumers to experience that. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're creating, is an experience-based product that people can then go out and create their own experience. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
So, in your words, what is the Grown Rogue experience for a consumer?
It's whatever they want it to be, truly. I mean, they can use our product. It's a lot of work that we're doing right now. I know in New Jersey, we're hosting a ton of community events that I just think are awesome, through art, through movement, through music. This is how people should be experience the product. This is how you recreate responsibly. Like, so awesome to be leading that charge and really being kind of on the ground floor of how people can really utilize our product and consume. And I think it's awesome to have this choice and the flexibility. So I'm all for it.
Well, Sarah, I really appreciate you being so generous with your time. And I assure you that the pleasure is all mine to have you on the show. So thank you so much for joining us. But before we get out of here, is there anything else that you want to make sure that the Cannabis Equipment News audience knows, either about yourself or your work at Grown Rogue?
I just want them to know we're the real deal. Our team's the real deal. Our flower's the real deal. Like, we don't cut corners. We are who we say we are. We do what we do. We execute. We're disciplined. We come from a real place. We come from real cannabis. We come from real cannabis country. We've been operators in this space a long time, and we're obsessive and passionate and care deeply about what we create. And I hope that everyone gets to experience Grown Rogue in their own way. It'd be awesome to, get feedback and have our consumers tell us what they want. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, and it has to give you confidence knowing that you have a consistent, high quality product that, outside of any marketing, could just speak for itself.
1,000%. Because from day one, that's what it's been all about for Obi and I. It's where we stem from. It's who we are. It's been our life. Truly. I don't think if you'd asked Obi or I today if this is where we'd end up, like what we'd be doing, I don't think either of us would say this is where we'd end up. But here we are, because we just continue to move forward. And that's what we got to do in life, is continue to move forward and just keep pushing through and executing upon what we've built.
I mean, that's what makes it fun, right?
Hey, it's fun every day, especially when you get to do it with the person you love.
That does make things easier. It's what's it like? I guess it's fair. I asked Obi, what's it like? You're around each other. We're all work and all work, play, family time. It's all there's no breaks. What's it like running a company with your spouse?
It's a loaded question.
I know, that's why I asked it.
No, I think Obi and I have a lot of fun. I think we've learned and grown up together through this process. I can't imagine not doing this with him. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. He has been one of my greatest teachers. We're both competitive, and I think that's given us an advantage because of that competitive nature that we both have. I don't know if he shared this with you, but we literally met playing basketball, like literally on the court. Like,
really?
Yeah. We were on two different teams, and I don't want to say I won, but I'm pretty sure I won. But yeah.
So what sparked the conversation? Was it like a hard foul, or?
Actually, he would tell you that I missed this layup, but I think I had some other great scores, but he really likes to just highlight that one because I think I was kind of dominating him. So it was pretty awesome. But I'm teasing. No, it was so fun. It was like pickup ball. In the summers, I had to go home in between when I played college ball, and there was never girls around. There was hardly any girls, so it was always me playing with the boys. And so that's where I met Obi, and I fell in love with this game.
Well, that's very charming. And to his credit, when I did talk to him, he did say that, being in a family of athletes, that, he definitely gave all the props to you as being, the alpha athlete in the family.
No, I don't know. He's pretty good himself, David. It's pretty fun. But now all we really play is horse. We leave all the fun and games to the kids. So, no, but I think to be truthful though, like honestly, it's been such a blast. There's been moments for sure it's tested us, but I think that's what makes us so strong is because it makes us have to work together and have difficult conversations. And I think our leadership directly correlates into Grown Rogue, overcoming obstacles. We're kind of that we walk the talk, if you will, right? Like we're the real deal.
Mentioning the kids, just because I'm curious to see how cannabis has evolved through generations. And I wanted to get your perspective. What do you think the cannabis industry looks like as an operator in the next generation?
I think it's having that transparency and being really honest. That's where I've led with our children. Just being open and honest about what we're creating. They see more of us building a business, but also just talking about it in a very logical, explaining what it is, not hiding it from them. As difficult as those conversations may be, but this is part of our life. This is who we are and what we do and what provides for our family. So being really honest and being upfront about the product we create, the expectations around it, how to recreate responsibly, what it can and cannot be used for, just having those hard conversations. And again, I'll just go back walking the talk, right? Like literally living it in that vein and that truth. Not hiding it, not destigmatizing it by operating and being the stewards to this industry.
Well, Sarah, it's a truly inspiring story, and thank you very much for sharing a little part of it with me today.
I really appreciate the time. It's been, I likewise, just such an honor to think of where we come from, and to be sitting here in this moment with you today is not something that I take lightly. I hold a lot of gratitude and thank you for sharing our story today. Are you going to make me cry?
No. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. If you like, you can leave the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to that daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. For Sarah Strickler, co-founder of Grown Rogue, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast, and we will see you next week.
Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.